Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a very interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Heretic Cleric II. A huge OTF. This is really cool. There's not a lot of other companies that are making these sort of extra long double action OTFs right now. I'm pretty excited about this. I want to thank eKnives actually for loaning this to me for review. This will go back to eKnives when I'm done. I will link this right down below so that you guys can check it out if you want. At the time of this recording, which is probably a couple of weeks ago, even if you're watching this on the day that I uploaded it, these are available. So you should be able to check them out. It does help my channel when you use my links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. This is a long double action OTF and made in the USA, I might add, if you are not familiar with Heretic knives. Let's go ahead and measure it. Overall length of this bad boy is coming in, God, let's get it exactly on. I'm coming in at 9.85 inches overall, just shy of 10 inches. Blade length is absolutely 4 1/4. And your cutting edge is 4 inches. It's a lot, especially considering we have a double-edged blade. So you have quite a lot of cutting edge. Let's go ahead and do a couple of size comparisons here with some common folding knives, the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. It is long for sure. How about up against the Demco 80 20.5? There we go. Let's do the Para 3. And we'll do one more folding knife. How about the Benchmade Bug Out? Now this is great, but we want to know what it looks like up against some of the more popular OTFs, right? I get ya. Let's go ahead and, why did I say it like that? I get ya. Let's put it up against the Microtech Ultratech. There we go. Definitely a lot longer. How about something bigger? Let's do the Microtech Combat Troodon. Yeah. More slender body, but definitely longer. How about up against the Microtech Scarab II? Again, more slender body, but still longer. How about up, I'd say the most comparable knife in Microtech's lineup right now is the Dirac Delta. Definitely longer, even if we include the Glassbreaker. And then finally up against the largest OTF that I own, and that's going to be the Guardian Tactical Recon 35. That is the closest one I have to it. It is even longer. I'm sorry, I said Recon 35. Recon 40 is the big one. Yeah, definitely big, long OTF. I'm going to tell you right now, this is what I wanted the Microtech Makora 2 to be. I know that the Microtech Makora 2 is more similar to the original Makora, and they made like this really cool like long Makora at some point, and that's what I was hoping for, and they didn't do that. And so Heretic, I don't know if they intentionally were just filling this void that they thought some people wanted. I mean, I was really happy to see that, you know, we have another option out there for a really like an XL long OTF, double action OTF. So I'm really happy that this exists. Let's go ahead and do carry profile up against the Spyderco Para 3. So in terms of thickness, it is, you know, I guess you could say relatively thick, but then again, let's put it up against something like the Microtech Ultratech. It's a little thicker, right? Maybe do the Dirac Delta. Honestly, it's about the same, right? It's got a long, slender body, and in this way, it makes this, you know, these types of knives, OTFs in general, I think are pretty easy to carry, but it's not really going to take up, I mean, it's longer than the PM2, but it's so, you know, slender in the body, even though it is a little bit thick. This is the type of thing that I just don't think is that difficult to carry. I mean, if you've got pants with really shallow pockets, maybe, but I put this thing in jean pockets. I just wear regular jeans, and it went, you know, it sunk all the way in. So I really didn't have a problem with it. I mean, if you're looking to carry something with a super long blade, but you found that your options are limited to knives that are really big and bulky, this might be an option for you if you can legally carry an automatic knife and one that is double-edged, because I think that these only currently come in double edge. Depends on when you're watching if they choose to make a different blade. Let's go ahead and weigh it. What are the materials here? So this is important. The blade on this guy is LMAX. I have the box right here. This is actually a prototype. I got this sent before the production ones were available. It's serial number 12. This guy's in LMAX, but I just looked and a bunch of retailers have these in Magna Cut, which is pretty cool. I like LMAX. I also like Magna Cut. Of course, if they're properly heat treated. I think they are still releasing both. There doesn't seem to be a price difference between the two, blade steels. It's more so the finish on the blade that'll determine the price. Yeah, you can see right here actually, Heretic Cleric II Proto. Black Anno aircraft grade aluminum, black double edge LMAX, textured metal inlay. What is that textured metal? Initially, I thought it was steel. It appears to be aluminum. The magnet does not like the handle as much unless the blade is retracted into it, so I believe it is just a separate aluminum inlay. It's not listed as titanium anywhere, right? And it doesn't feel heavy enough to have titanium inlay. So I believe that is just a textured aluminum inlay. Can't find anything to confirm that, but that would be my best guess. Let's go ahead and weigh it. The weight of the Cleric II is coming in at 4.13 ounces, which is, I think, out of all of the knives that I have reviewed, this is the most amazing ratio. I've never actually had a knife with a blade over 4 inches that has hit that perfect 1-to-1 ratio, meaning an ounce of blade, an ounce of knife per inch of blade. And this is actually slightly better. 4.25 inches of blade. That is amazing that it's only 4.13 ounces. So I really can't complain too much. Let's get my tools out to do a hardware check. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use in this channel. Fortunately, it looks like most of these screws are T8. Yeah, even the pocket clip screws are T8. We do have this screw right here, which undoubtedly is part of the chassis. I didn't take this apart because this is going back to E-knives, and it's also a prototype, so you'll just have to forgive me for not taking it apart. That screw is a T6. I don't believe there are any more screws. If you really want to get into your OTF, you can do that. They didn't lock you out with proprietary hardware like some companies do. OTFs are way less intimidating than I once thought, but they still aren't nearly as simple as most common folding knives. So I would say be prepared if you're really going to do that, and check with the manufacturer to see whether or not it's going to void your warranty. I would suggest if you have a problem with your OTF, contact the manufacturer and, find out what they want you to do, because these are expensive, but it's yours. If you paid for it, you do what you want to do with it, right? Okay, we've done the hardware. Oh yeah, we need to measure the blade stock thickness here real quick, which is going to be a little bit tricky because there's a really short flat there at the base that's the only thing I can use to measure it. I'm going to do my best here. Okay. Yeah, 125 thousandths or so. That's about what I expected. All right, let's go ahead and talk about this knife. So in the past, Heretic OTFs have been, cool, but they've always looked a little bit kind of weird, a little wonky, right? The little things like the body shape and the pocket clip and things like that. This is the best looking Heretic OTF that I've seen. Actually, truthfully, I really like this in general. I like the look of this. I like that we have this little diamond textured area up here on the switch. I do like that the switch is up on the face. It's off to one side, which kind of takes away, from that full symmetrical look. But then again, the handle itself is not symmetrical. It's like flat back here, and then you have more of the ergonomic, lines over on this side. So, okay, had they done everything perfectly symmetrical, that it would just be another like symmetrical OTF design, and we have a few of those now. Benchmade, what is that called? I keep wanting to say the Heretic, but that's why am I blanking on the Benchmade Infidel? Geez. And then we have the Direct Delta, of course, and we have the Hawk Deadlock, for symmetrical designs. So it's cool. This has some character to it, especially with this sort of worn what I'm assuming is aluminum inlay. I actually really like the texture pattern. It's big and bulky and kind of bubbly diamonds, but it does look good. I can't say that it provides an enormous amount of traction, but it's nice to the touch and it's on both sides. I just like it, honestly. This is a really comfortable knife to hold, in terms of an OTF. Obviously, there are lots of like manual folding knife designs where the ergonomics are much more suited to the human hand. This is kind of a long, just slender handle that has to accommodate for the chassis on the inside, which is necessary for the blade to operate correctly. But they did a good job with this, and all of the edges are very nicely knocked down. Every area feels good to the touch. Good on the hand, right? I don't know how else to say that. And I mean, as far as OTF ergonomics go, this is nice, and you have a lot of room to move around. The other thing that I like is that they didn't go nuts with the pocket clip. This is the least insane pocket clip that I have seen from Heretic, and while I still don't love, especially like the little ball bearing thing, those are real pinchy, it works okay, right? And it doesn't get in the way too much of your hand. In fact, if you choke up on it, you're almost completely and totally off of the pocket clip. But I mean, there are so many hand positions on the way up. Even if you have the biggest hands in the whole world, it's likely you can still get a grip on this guy without having, fingers sliding off the edge. There is not a lot guarding your finger from running up on the edge of the blade, so you still have to be cognizant of that. But, either way, it's more comfortable with the ergonomic lines down, right, where your fingers are, but if you turn it over and hold it, it's, it's fine. It's pretty impressive. The action on it, very good. The thing that I worry about with a super long OTF, you think about how far that blade has to travel. I feel like maybe the reason that we don't see so many super long boys in the double OTF world is because they are more prone to failure, meaning the blade doesn't come all the way out. I have opened and closed this knife probably 200 or 300 times since I've had it, and it has not felt like it's slowing down. It hasn't, it hasn't failed at all. The power feels great. This is extremely similar to other Microtech knives that I've handled, the Guardian Tactical, right? Some of the more premium OTFs. And the blade play is basically exactly the same as any of my super high-end Microtechs. It does still have a little teeny tiny bit of play, which is normal unless you're talking about the Deadlock OTF, which, what do those things run now? $1,500 at base? More if you want titanium? I don't know. They're over $1,000 easily. So this has extremely minimal blade play and is very comparable to some of the nicest like production OTFs on the market. Really impressed with that. Really crisp, right? Deliberate. Bam, that blade just rockets out for how much blade is there. Really nice. The blade itself is a very simple dagger ground blade, and something that was really disappointing, I'm going to show you guys right here. This line out to the tip is all right. It seems to be ever so slightly that way. On this side, however, dang it, this is unacceptable. Now, to be fair, this is a prototype. I am hoping that the production versions, right? Maybe they made a bunch of prototypes and like, whoops, we need to like recalibrate this or that. Maybe the production variants will all have lines going straight down the center. The most acceptable goof up was something like that. Like dagger ground blades are hard to do, right? I mean, getting the lines like perfectly straight. If there was like, if I had like a line that was like literally a hair off, I'd probably be able to choke it down. But for the most part, I want to say if you're going to do this, it's really got to be perfect, right? And on the Dirac Delta, that's what we have here is a nice perfect centered line on both sides. That is what I like to see, right? That's the only other, and same with my Scarab actually. The line is perfectly down the center. And that's, that's what I want if I'm going to spend that much money on an OTF. So I'm hoping that the production versions, if you have this knife, let me know in the comments if yours is right down the center. Heretic does a really good job with their stuff. I was really surprised to see even on the prototype that was the line was off. But, that's the only thing that's making me think maybe that's why, because this is a pre-production prototype, right? So the blade it's only 125 thousandths at its thickest point, right? But still there's not a lot of room to drop to the cutting edge. This feels slightly hollow, It's kind of hard to tell, but I think so. Still, though, this is not, I mean, anybody who has ever like done daily cutting with a double-edged, knife that's this width or this height or whatever, you guys are going to know it's just not going to cut super duper well. Will it cut? Yeah. Will it poke? Oh, absolutely. It'll do that. It's just not going to be nearly as efficient because the geometry behind the edge is just not all that great. But it will do what you want it to do, and the benefit here is that you have two edges, effectively, doubling the edge retention of whatever the composition is. So in some ways it's kind of, made up in that way. Nice thing about OTFs, of course, a lot of people look at these and they think dangerous weapon, right? And it's that there are plenty of knife people who automatically think that as well. The benefit to carrying an OTF and using it as a tool, which, despite what some people think, is absolutely what they are used for 99.9999% of the time. You do not need a special super level 100 ninja pass to buy one of these things. You can find them at the most common retailers anywhere, right? You don't have to be military or LEO, anything like that. You can just buy this and you can just use it, right? So these are, not made in the same quantity as like the Gerber paraframe, but they are certainly made in high quantities, and people buy them and carry them. And, you can argue infinitely about what the thing is designed to be used for, but what it actually will be used for 99.999999% of the time is just cutting open boxes and packages and stuff. And the nice thing about EDCing an OTF, I regularly EDC my Ultratech, which probably could use a little bit of cleaning and maybe a touch up on the edge. The great thing about it is I've always argued that OTFs, I think, are actually safer, ironically, than regular folding knives. It takes a lot of deliberate effort to fire the blade out, and then when you need to retract it, you just retract it. There's no fumbling around. In fact, there's very minimal thought process that goes into deploying and retracting an OTF. Sorry, I had to cut the video because the camera decided to absolutely wig out on me, but what I was saying there is that there's just not a lot of it doesn't take a lot of brain capacity to do. There's less chance, in my opinion, that you're going to accidentally injure yourself. And it's just, OTFs have just been kind of blown up as this like evil, scary weapon thing. And in reality, they're really some of the most convenient and safe cutting tools on the market. But, what are you going to do? It's loud and it's clicky and it's scary. So that's what people are going to think right off the bat. Anyways, what I proceeded to talk about after that was how much I liked the pocket clip. And, the design is okay, but the fact that it is a 3D milled piece of titanium is really cool. I kind of like the flaming and the contrast of this sort of bronze to black, right? Carry depth is about here, so not a lot sticking up out of the pocket. We do have a little glass breaker right there. In and out of the pocket is fairly easy. You'd think it'd be kind of a bumpy ride because of the texturing here, but no, it's not bad. I still don't like how pinchy the ball bearings are. This isn't my favorite style of clip, but it's also not the worst thing in the entire world. Outside of that, there's really not a whole lot more to talk about there with a knife. A lot of you know that, a lot of people think that OTF locks are really, really fragile, like they're not going to actually lock the blade. Actually, they're pretty darn strong. It's really it's kind of the same thing with any knife. The weakest part of the knife is actually going to be out here at the tip. The blade, anywhere from halfway out, like wherever it starts to taper, that's going to be the weakest part. And the only people who are going to find that out are people who are using their knives for things that they really shouldn't be using them for, like using it as a screwdriver or a pry bar, which you shouldn't be doing with any knife, especially something that has the tip geometry like this. I really like this. The only thing that I really disliked was that uneven grind. And I am hoping that will not be the case with the production ones, right? I mean, like I said, if it is literally a human hair off, I think that's about as much as I could be okay with. Outside of that, though, it really looks bad. And people are going to say, oh, who cares? If you're going to use... The only people who are going to say that are people who have absolutely no intention of buying it. Let me tell you what this knife costs. It's $420. Now, versus its actual competition. I know people are going to bring up, some silly, competitive options that make no sense. We're talking the actual competitors. Guardian Tactical, Axial, Microtech, right? Benchmade makes a few. I don't know. There's some other companies, right? This is actually priced fairly well. It's not the most amazing thing in the whole world. You know, I think 2-3 years ago we would have seen this thing come in at $325 to $350, but obviously a lot of things happened in the last 2 to 3 years, so that's just not, we're just not going to see that with these truly USA made OTFs anymore. It's a lot of money. Anybody who's actually going to spend that much, oh, you absolutely want that line centered. Even if, it'll still poke and it'll still, yeah, well, okay, sure, obviously. But at this price point, we are paying for more than just utility. There are plenty of things you can buy for way less money that'll have arguably the same or better utility. But the truth is that the people who are actually spending money on this stuff want that extra. They want that higher, level of quality. They want that higher attention to detail, right? They want to see that line go right down the center, even if it won't actually make a difference when it comes to utility. And, I've heard every argument. You can give me every argument you want down in the comments. I'm not trying to be mean, but I just won't. I just won't hear it. If I'm spending $420 on a knife, a production knife like this, I expect that line to be perfect, just plain and simple. And I would venture to guess the vast majority of people who are actually going to buy this thing would agree with me. They want to see that line go down the middle. So this is all right. It's not something that you should be beating down any doors for, right? I mean, there are better options. There are more practical and more reasonable options out there when it comes to a USA, like a true USA OTF. Again, the Microtech Ultratech, the Guardian Tactical Recon 35, and the Axial Shift are some of the best things out there. You're paying more money for a longer knife, and it is one of the only things that exists in this territory right now that is actually this size. So if you really, really want a super long double action OTF, this is your best bet, and you're probably gonna like it. If the grind goes right down the center, absolutely, all day. If you're big into these super long OTFs, right, and you like the look of this, and you can legally carry it in your area, then yeah, go ahead. You're going to love it, right? For everybody else, it's just kind of over the top, right? You have to really want the extra here. But super cool. I think that's going to be pretty much it. Like I said, I'll link this down below if you guys want to check it out. Thanks again to eKnives for loaning this thing to me for review. Please, where did my card go? Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.